Hello everyone. I was going to read you the story of Red Riding Hood and then I remembered I've got a Red Riding Hood, so I'm going to tell you the story. Once upon a time there was a little girl called Red Riding Hood because whenever she went out she wore her red riding hood. Now her mum said to her one day, "Red Riding Hood, I want you to go and take Granny some food because she's not feeling very well. You have to leave it outside and step back and she'll get the food. Would you like to see Grandma?" It's a bit tricky, so we have to turn around. There's Grandma. Now Grandma lived in a cottage in the woods. So Red Riding Hood set out with her basket full of food and she walked through the woods. Now, on her way through the woods, who do you think she met? You already know, don't you? It was the big bad wolf. Now the big bad wolf said to her, "Little girl, where are you going?" And she said to him, "I'm going to Grandma's house." Now we know you don't talk to strangers and you don't tell them where you're going. But Red Riding Hood didn't know that. So the wolf said to her, "Okay, off you go then, little girl. I might see you around another time." We know what he's up to, don't we? He ran as fast as he could to get to Grandma's house. Can you stand up and run as fast as you can like you're that wolf rushing to get to Grandma's house? And when he got there, do you know what terrible thing he did? He shut poor Granny in the cupboard. And then he got her mob cap and her nightie on and he got into bed. I think he probably turned the lights out so it was a bit dark in the cottage too. And then along came Red Riding Hood and she knocked on the door and she heard a voice saying, "Come in, my dear." So she went into the house and she said, "Oh, Granny, what big eyes you've got." "All the better to see you with, my dear," said Granny. And then Red Riding Hood said, "Oh, Granny, what big ears you have." And the wolf said, "All the better to hear you with, my dear." And then she said, "Oh, Granny, what big teeth you have." And the wolf said, "All the better to eat you with, my dear." And Red Riding Hood said, "Help me, who will help me?" And phew, a woodcutter just happened to be passing by and he bopped the wolf on the, that's Red Riding Hood, silly Miss Howe, no. He bopped the wolf on the head and then they could hear somebody saying, "Let me out, let me out." Who's saying "let me out"? Where was Granny? Do you remember? Granny was stuck in the cupboard, wasn't she? So they let Granny out and they gave her a nice cup of tea and maybe a bit of cake to cheer her up. And they all lived happily ever after. And that is the story of Red Riding Hood. Goodbye, everybody.